Hello and welcome to this spooktacular TMC VO workout. Yes, if you couldn't tell, the spooky season is upon us, and we're going to have some fun today by not doing anything particularly spooky. If you missed it all, we did it before. Go ahead and check out some of our previous workouts this month. Um, but today we're actually getting back into narration because it's been a little bit. So, and I want to give as many different genres as much love as possible for the Spooktober season. So, we're doing this one, which is on the screen right over there. Hopefully, you can see it. And thankfully, everybody now has the ability to actually view it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should join us in the server. It was kind of a disaster, but funny at the same time. Anyway, um, Amanda, why don't you go ahead and take us away with the cold reads?
Okay. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Events of the customs connected with Halloween Events of the customs connected with Halloween could be traced to Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on October 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 19th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st. And in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls Day to honor the souls of the dead. Um, let's go with Josh.
Josh, you're up.
Alrighty.
One note probably should have been clarified. I don't know why Celts was clarified, but this one was not. Um, and it's okay. You didn't know. Samhain, that name is actually pronounced Samhain or Sowin.
All right.
So we'll put in a pronunciation note later. But yeah, go ahead.
Alrighty. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs collected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the new Celtic year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead. Uh, Tiger.
That is me. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead. Let's do James.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts held festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day in honor of the souls of the dead. Andrew.
All right. There we are. Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead. Cassidy, I don't believe you've gone yet.
Y'all can hear me, right? Okay. Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain. This festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead. See, who hasn't gone yet?
So it is Brett, myself, and Dried Humor.
All right, with Brett.
Okay.
All right, you can hear me? Yep, cool. Sweet. Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead. I'm gonna go with Justin.
Yo. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the new Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls Day to honor the souls of the dead. I think it's just Michael left now, right?
It's just me.
Okay.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls Day to honor the souls of the dead. Okay, I believe that is all of our cold reads. So let's go ahead and get to the discussion portion of what we do here, right? So let's talk about this. First off, microphone technique, voiceover, voice under. Which one does this look like?
I'd say voice under. I have the feeling this is like part of a documentary or something. Like it doesn't exactly say, but judging from like the content and like the directions, I have a feeling that this is what we're trying to go for.
Okay.
This
Any other
could be
thoughts?
over too. This one's tough.
Could be over too. Okay, well, this is another one that's both.
Well, I mean,
We're in
it could
the
just
A,
be
you need 'em.
it could just be images of the things the narrator is talking about,
Okay.
but the main content, I mean, if you just watched it with just the visuals, it may not make any sense without the voiceover on this. So I'm kind of thinking just because it's so text heavy, this might be over.
Okay.
Voice medium.
You guys are gonna have to start explaining all these different choices. I'm just saying.
I just did.
Voice suspended. Voice submerged.
Voice submerged. Yes.
Yeah, I
Voice
agree
in
with Andrew.
between.
Medium rare. Yeah.
Medium.
Voice in between.
The voice
With
the
a nice
interim.
sear on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm
The
hungry. dang it.
VA.
Voice half baked.
Oh, jeez. All right. Come on.
That's a
Okay.
completely
Come on.
different read.
Yeah, man. This is the wrong script for that, man.
Right.
Um,
Not if you try hard enough.
Yeah. Hey, look. I'm not here to dictate what you do. In your own time. I've got no opinion one way or another. Just come on. Try to put yourself together when you come here. All right. So we're kind of on like a dead even sort of. Is it over? Is it under? What are we really looking at here? Any other thoughts? Anybody?
It's under.
It's under. Are you sure?
And
Yeah,
I would say it's over.
That's what I love about documentaries. Yes,
I mean,
thank you. I have
most
no strong
documentaries are, I would ask for a voice under read.
Okay.
I mean, they're meant to be in the background, and the content that you're seeing visually should be the center of attention, not who's speaking.
Right. But in a documentary, the information being presented is the main point. It's not the images. The images help make the information or help give the information context and make it make sense. So in a documentary style of read, your narration is as much a character as what you're seeing on screen.
So then that's different from a commercial in a voice under read.
Mm-hmm. because it's a much short because so a commercial read is a much shorter read, and it doesn't need to have as much presence unless it is like a character based commercial, which of course those exist. But in this setting, the information is the key thing. It's not necessarily just the images, it's not just your voice. It's what's being presented. As a documentary, that's the goal. You want somebody to see and learn in context what's going on. So if you remember like Planet Earth when that aired years and years ago, like the information being presented was presented both like in audio and visual. So ultimately, the information is the star of the show, and both your narration and the images contribute to that. I would say this would be safest to approach as a voice over script. You are acting as a guide. You are walking people through this history, showing them the paintings and the murals on the wall. Even though that's all they see, they don't see you actually on screen. You are the one who's sort of walking through the museum of history with them and pointing everything out to them.
So does this
So like an
mean
invisible tour guide.
Yeah.
does this mean a documentary would not ever be a voice under read then?
I think so. They would use it in certain portions to highlight certain things. So let's say, for instance, there's like let's say you're doing like a wildlife documentary, okay, and you've got like a big cat that's stalking prey. They would probably have you do voice under, which is again low, close, quiet, to try and add to that feeling of tension, right? You'd be again trying to play up what's happening in front of them at that point because the hunt is the most important part. But let's say then you back off and you start talking about the normal life cycle of a cheetah, you know, what their young life is and how they learn, how they grow, you know, what family life is like for them amongst other cheetahs and whatnot. Yeah, the hoont. But uh, that kind of stuff would be it's you presenting it very openly in front of them. Documentaries are really fun that way because it's just as much a character read as it is an informational read.
So you switch between a character read and a I guess in the background kind of read.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So it kind of a documentary will oftentimes hop between the two of those. And yes, Caitlin, you're pretty much right. Yeah, voice under is more subtle. Voiceover is a little bit more upfront and bigger. Normally voiceover is when you are the main character or your presentation is the main character on the screen. There's a variety of situations where that may be the case. Voice under is where the images on screen are the key thing, and you're trying to direct people's attention to that. That's usually more frequently used in commercial work, but again, with a documentary script like this, you're actually going to be bouncing between the two of them as time goes on. Because again, it's just the different techniques that are going to highlight whatever it is you're trying to present.
That makes. I just never heard the term before.
Yeah, it's just a term we use here. I mean, please
No, that's
feel
cool.
free to
That's
ask.
cool. I need all the vernacular, right? Because everyone has their different lingo and everything. So I'm just
Yeah,
trying to get a hold of all that. So thank you. That was a very
no
clear
problem.
explanation.
Well, I'm glad I was able to clarify that. But Justin, what are you thinking?
So then it seems under and over. It's not always cut and dry. I mean, I'm looking at this script and this looks like something I would read in a museum display. Just reading what's written on the description of a Halloween display about this content. I mean, it's not something that
Okay,
it,
it's just it doesn't have a clear cut and defined reason why it would be over to you. Is that right?
right. I mean,
Okay.
you mentioned being a guide, and that could be a character, but
Yeah.
then you also talk about the animal documentary where you're also talking you were talking about general information about a cheetah, and that might be more of a background read. But couldn't I also argue I want to be a guide and explain what cheetah's mating habits are, and that could be a character voiceover read?
Yes, so I was only bringing up the hunting section of like the cheetah as an example of trying to also bring the listener into the atmosphere of what's going on. So it's not necessarily that you would so the reason why you would want to go with a voice under read during that during just the hunting section would be because there's this atmosphere of tension, right? They would probably bring all of the ambient noise and everything. Yeah, settling the tone, ambience, exactly. They would probably bring all of the background noise for everything really, really down low, and probably just have like subtle sounds playing in the background. You might even hear some of the rustling of the cheetah like rustling through the grass and whatnot. So you would move into a voice under delivery there, a more understated and quieter tone to add to that quiet, sort of tense atmosphere, right? Inching ever closer, the hungry cat closes in on its prey. You know, you're just trying to help paint the atmosphere there. But for the most part, when it comes to um, presenting major portions of information, you are a character. Your character is you're the expert here. You are a museum curator. You're a teacher. You are whoever would know something about this and whoever this is going to be important to, walking people through the history of what's being shown to them. So I think for the
Right.
most part, you could treat this as voiceover.
Okay, so I think I got things a bit confused. The over or under is referring to the mic technique, whether you're level 3 further away or level
Yep.
1 up and
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with the 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 tone or the ambience or the environment. It's strictly the technique.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Does that help out?
Yeah, I think I mean, been doing this for a while, but I just kept assuming over means like bombastic and over the top or like a clear obvious character, and
Mhm.
under meant more like subdued and in the background, but that's still they're both different versions of a character, and it's not mic technique.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's a little clearer now.
Oh.
Um, but again, if you want to discuss it a little bit more, we absolutely can, like afterwards. Because I know I keep using the vernacular over and over again, and I assume that I maybe I haven't explained it as clear as I could have. That's probably on me. So if you want to, we can talk about that again afterwards.
I think I'm good now. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it makes sense.
So let's see. Tiger asked, my question is, I think, would a voiceover section of a documentary function similarly to an audiobook? Maybe slightly less on the performance as your voice isn't the sole focus. Yes. So those two experiences, audiobook and documentary, do have some overlap to them. But the kind of character that you play in a documentary is slightly different than you would in an audiobook. Because normally, if you're doing like let's say a third person omniscient audiobook, then your character knows everything that's going on, and you kind of have to construct them based on that. Where with a documentary, your character is a subject matter expert. So you could be, a wildlife conservationist, a bird watcher, somebody who's really interested in the history of this specific region. Whatever you can use to help fit that particular read. That's the kind of character that you're going to choose. So it's a little bit more directed in a documentary style read. Does that help answer that, or am I just rambling here again?
No, that's great, and that's what I was getting to as I was trying to think it through, just to make sure I have it nailed down. Because
Mhm.
the almost split and evolving nature of it got me a little curious. Thank you.
Yeah, well, documentaries are fun. That's all I can really say about that. Now, speaking of that, let's go ahead and talk about the general tone that we should have with this. So, um, based on what's written here and the direction, how should we be approaching this? Like, what's her character? What are some characters that you could think of that this would make sense coming out of the mouth of?
Like a tour guide, a
Okay.
historian, or someone who is otherwise very intentionally passionate about the subject matter that they're talking about. It's informational, but it should also be engaging. You don't want to bore the listener, but you also want to present them with information that they might. You also want to educate them, but not bore
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
I
this is
think
kind of. Oh,
one
I'm so
oh,
sorry.
sorry.
No, you're
No,
fine.
go ahead, please.
This may be a little bit silly, but whenever I read the script and I didn't join soon enough, and I hope you guys can hear me okay. I tried to
Yeah.
test my
Yeah.
mic and I couldn't hear playback, so we're just going in blind here. But to me, I would love, like, based on the description and the direction, kind of I set a whole scene, right? Like, you're at a historical library and there's this old geezer who lives in town and he is just steeped in all of this history and tradition, and someone has come by and has taken the bait,
Hmm.
and hearing him kind of explain the history of these things. And so, it's not too over energetic, but definitely someone who's looking to appease their audience and has a real zeal and passion for it.
Yeah.
And of course, not getting too charactery, if
Right.
you will, but that same kind of energy. That's kind of what I picture.
All right. You get a pass for that now. Sorry, I got a thing about the word energy, but I'm not going to hold it against you.
Oh, good to know.
I love the somebody mentioned in Twitch the leader of a coven explaining it to a squirrel. I mean, hey, if you really want to go with that, you can, but I think that's a little over the top for what we're going for here. So, I love those ideas. It specifically asks here, engaged and fun, non-announcer. So when you think engaged and fun, what like what kind of tonal qualities does that have to you? Like what kind of approach do you think that should require? Like if you want something to sound engaged and fun, what should what should happen up here?
Uh, your tone should be warm, but should also be very expressive. You know,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, don't be afraid to be expressive.
And likely having a smile. You're excited about this thing that you're sharing.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Technical question. Well, I don't know if it's technical. It's really just about the script.
Hmm.
I kept leaning. I kept assuming to read the dates as an ordinal, like October 31st instead of October 31. Um, is that is it something where I should, if it's okay to continue with that, or I should just read it as it's written, October 31 instead of October 31st?
That's a good question. Whoever you're working with would clarify that for you, but normally it would be ordinal, October 31st, November 2nd, November 1st, and 11th, you know, just go with that, what makes the most sense.
Mm.
Because it's very easy for some people to get lost in numbers. The night of October 31. I mean, that doesn't really sound quite right, does it?
The second fortnight of
Yeah.
the 10th month of the year.
Yeah, exactly. No, but like,
Uh,
just go with what makes the most human sense, and if somebody wants to direct you away from that, they will. Because by the time that that becomes a problem, if they reach out to you to correct you, then clearly they want you for the job. So they're going to make sure that they get the best out of you, and they're going to clarify that for you. But I would say, as a base rule for when you approach these things, just express them in the way that makes the most sense to you.
okay.
So, um, okay, that should actually say fun, not funny. It should be a fun, engaged, interested tone.
I was gonna bring that up and ask about it.
Yeah, fun. It shouldn't be funny. It should be fun. Uh, sorry. Um, it does say fun. Hang on, I'm going to hang on. Supposedly it was fixed. For me, it still says funny.
Funny,
Mm.
engaged, interested tone. Not the
Yeah.
first
Now,
engaged
the
one.
Celts had festivals of two major gods, a sun god, a god of the dead, and the god of the dead inside. Hi, Mom.
Wow.
That is if we were to
Three
engage in a
major
funny
gods.
tone.
um, yeah, actually, it also says that here. Samain should be pronounced Sawin. So that pronunciation guide, thankfully, is there. But yeah, so some of the things that I really want to impress here is that when you're walking somebody through information, it's really important to be clear about the direction that you're heading in. What I mean by that is one thing is going to lead to the next, lead to the next, lead to the next. So in order to keep that clear, be really careful about not ending thoughts on commas. For instance, the sentence that says the Celts had festivals for two major gods, um, because it's kind of a longer that's kind of a longer sentence, but try not to cut off your ideas too quickly. Um, Again, you're talking about the sun god, a sun god, which is not necessarily important to what it is you're talking about, but the god of the dead called Samhain. So that's your aside, and then you're back to the main point, whose festival was held on November 1st. So just be really, really careful about not breaking up your ideas too much throughout the script. Now, does anybody have any questions or comments or anything like that about the script? Anything you guys want any clarifications on? Anything at all?
I want to clarify. I think you also suggested Soin as a pronunciation too
Yeah.
versus Sawin. Okay.
Yeah, Samhain, Soin. When you look it up, both of those are presented as possible pronunciations. But when it comes to the script, if it's listed in one way, just use that pronunciation. So we're going to assume that our client wants us to say Sawin for this one. Anything else? Alrighty then. Let's get into it. We're now going to move on to
Wait a minute. So, who
Yes.
is the intended audience? Is it like more of like a general audience, or is there like a specific, like age,
Good
like
question.
demographic?
Good question. So, based on what we see here, what does it kind of sound like?
They like general audiences, but for some reason I can see it being played in like a middle school or like a high school history class.
Yeah, I kind of see young adult.
Yeah.
Like teen to like early 20s kind of thing.
Exactly. So when I was imagining like what I want to present it as, I was imagining myself being like a tour guide, leading like a bunch of like teenagers. Like it's like a school field trip, but it's not really like a museum, but it's more like an interactive thing. You know, when you go to like those colonial like recreation things, like I could just like walk them around, take them to the different things, you know, explain the history of each one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
So I
I,
wanted to be
I
on the right track.
yeah. Good question. Actually, we should have probably talked about that a little bit more. Yes, based on the writing, it seems like this would be for young adults. We'll go ahead and put that out there. Anybody else? Anything else? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the directed portion. So again, we all have a good. I hope you guys took some notes so you know or you have a decent idea of what it is that you're going to do. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the directed reads with Amanda.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Events of the customs connected with Halloween could be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on October 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
All right, opening it up. What did you all think?
So if we're not supposed to use the word energy, what less taboo words are there? But
Specifically, what you mean. The reason why I have an issue with the word energy is that I feel this is just a personal thing. You can use it however you want to.
sure.
But here, I feel that energy doesn't really convey anything specific. It's too generic because
Okay.
energy can be anything. It could be pitch, it could be tone, it could be speed, it could be manic mental energy, manic mental friction. Look at that. I'm using it now. Gosh dang it. Um, but it could be a mindset. There's usually something specific that you're trying to reach for that energy is really supposed to mean.
Yeah,
I
it's
just want
too
people
much
to
of a
use that.
catch-all.
Sorry,
God.
say again.
I said it's too much of a catch-all is
It
kind of
is.
what. Okay. That's
Yeah.
that I understand that. I needed to clarify that since I'm new here and wanted to make sure that I didn't, get any more demerits on my profile or
You're
anything.
fine. You're
Um,
new. It's no big deal.
well, thank you. The read though, I really I could hear the fun part of it. I definitely felt the smile coming through whenever you were delivering the information. You were happy about being able to deliver the information, and so it did engage me a little bit more. So that's kind of my note there. A couple of technical things like I think there might have been a mix up on a couple of words or something, but other than that, the delivery was nice. The pauses after the commas was nice as well, which had been discussed earlier. Great job.
Thank you so much.
I had a technical note, which one of them was mentioned when in the Twitch chat is you said events instead of elements, which could be conveyed as two very different things. And then I believe you said October 1st instead of November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year.
You.
So
Thank you.
just careful on that, just because those are dates and stuff. So, but yeah, I could hear how happy you were during the delivery. There was a couple commas you paused on a little long, but you're probably just catching your breath or something, maybe. But yeah,
I was trying not to go too fast.
gotcha.
Wanted to
Okay.
get like a steady read, but like engaging read. So I can definitely see why you would do that. I'll keep a note of that.
So, what were you seeing happening around you while you were reading it? What do you see going on? Do you have yourself in a setting or anything?
I was imagining myself in the setting that I conjured up, which was an interactive museum type thing the where the where the people that where the teenage crowd I'm giving a tour at, could like walk through, like an old uh 9th century, 11th century setting, like filled with like pictures and artifacts and such. And I'm like looking directly at them, making eye contact as we're going through.
Okay. Okay. Um, I'd like for you to spend a little bit less time looking directly at your audience and more time directing their attention to the murals, to the stuff that's on display. Because you,
Right.
you, you want
Okay.
them to see and feel all of this history to it, right?
Right.
So, less focus on just the audience, on just paying attention to them, and more about the incredible atmosphere you've created around them with this 3D display where, just like it said in the Twitch chat, they can go touch pumpkins and light candles.
Oh, gotcha. I'll try that.
Anybody else? Okay, let's hear it again.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with the Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 19th century, a feast in honor of the saints, All Hallows, was fixated on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Okay. Opening it up. What did y'all think?
All right. I heard that, and this is just a technical note, everything else sounded good, but one of the times you said Celtic and the other time you said Celtic.
Yeah, I did notice that. Thank you.
It sounded like you noticed a hitch and you kind of got stuck on that hitch. Is that what happened?
Oh, yeah, I did. I wanted to
Yeah.
keep it moving along,
Yeah. It's
but I
okay.
think I accidentally tripped over a couple of words on the way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, that's the weird thing that happens is when you hit one of those walls, when you actually are hitched up on something, it's okay. It happens. That's why they're editors. Um, Feel free to just like if you feel that that's really going to stop you, just feel free to stop, take a breath. I mean, one of the things that I've told people to do is use pickup. Just say pickup, and that's kind of that should be a mental cue to you to just go back to the beginning and start over again. Like just start fresh, leave that one behind. You're totally good. You have you have the time that you need. So I mean, if something's tripping you up, take the time to get over it. Like that's perfectly fine. You don't have to just push your way on through because then you kind of keep feeling the discomfort, right? Like it kind of just sticks around. We want to get rid of that for you.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Um, the full technique is to when you flub up, you go back to the beginning of the sentence and then go through it again because that'll usually catch your momentum again. I noticed it was the read was a little faster this time. So I like to elongate on vowels. I think I mention that every time that we do a workout is to in order to slow yourself down, start elongating vowels as you go, like maybe something you want to make, like All Hallows Eve. Like that way you can like slow yourself down, but it sounds more natural rather than pausing in certain places.
That's a good tip. I'll give that a try.
All right. Then whenever you're ready, from the top, let's hear it again.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of the saints, All Hallows, was fixated on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Okay. Much better pacing this time. Much more relaxed tone. A couple of things. Um, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, not fixated. Fixed on November 1st.
Dude, okay.
Let's see. Also, the Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. Try giving that more of like, hey, this is an interesting fact. Did you know that the Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual?
Oh, the
So it's kind of
Festival of
like
the Dead.
that's kind of a
Fun
yeah.
fact: the Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the ninth century, a feast in honor of the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st. Yeah, so like that.
Yeah, yeah. So go ahead and put it all together from where is it? The Celts had festivals for two major gods. Just from there through to the end.
Oh, okay. The Celts had festivals. Shit, let me do, let me do that again. The Celts had festivals. Shit, there's a lot of noise coming downstairs. Hold on. Let me refocus. The Celts had festivals, two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the ninth century, a feast in honor of the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
All right, opening it up. What did y'all think?
That last read, there were, I'm not going to be able to pinpoint it, but there were moments of different inflection that you had there that piqued my interest. Like it made me follow along better, and it upped that engagement factor for me.
Thank you, that means a lot.
All right, anybody else? Any other thoughts?
Also, I just want to sympathize with the like that was fixed on November 1st, how it had been changed to October. It's one of those things, unfortunately, sometimes if you get something in your brain, it's just like a switch trips and your brain automatically reverts it back. Groundhog Day, it's October. No, it's November. So I sympathize. There have been many times I have done similar things.
Yeah, because it
Sounds like a
gets so
challenge.
sometimes I get a little focused on the words, and sometimes when I'm reading like a sentence in a paragraph, my mind will just glitch into like looking at a different word as I'm like reading a different sentence, you know?
Mhm.
But I'm changing that. So thank you. That really means a lot.
Of course.
Yeah, overall, I think this was your strongest read so far. One last little technical note I'm going to give. I don't think you really need to reread it because I really liked the 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 pacing and the read that you gave us this time. But one thing I noticed in pretty much all of your reads is on the sentence that begins in the ninth century, you keep missing the word all. So you keep saying in the ninth century, a feast in honor of the saints, and it's written here all the saints. Now that's really nitpicky. I'm just giving you something. Um, but more importantly than that, I think your mindset was in a much better place for this last read, and I was really happy with that. I think that's a really good improvement. So
Thank
I'm not
you.
going to ask you to retake it, but just a note to pay attention to. You might
Thank you.
have
I think
something
so
feel a
too.
bit about it. Alrighty then, let's move this right along. Josh, are you here?
Yep.
All right,
I got back a while ago. I'm good.
cool. Well, you're up.
Okay. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts have festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the new Celtic year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the ninth century, a feast in honor of all saints of a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Okay, opening it up. What did y'all think?
Hmm.
It sounded like you fell into a bit of a pattern. I can't repeat it because I don't, but it seemed like a lot of your sentences ended with the same. They ended on a down note, um, and it just got a little repetitive, and kind of made me at least lose track of what you were saying, and it was like, oh, there's the pattern. There it is again.
Okay.
So just be aware of that, and try to like what I whatever works for you. Like what I did with the script here is I broke it into 3 different sections as basically 3 different main ideas. Um, and that might help to kind of shift your mind into a different place so that it's not just I'm reading this sentence. Okay, now I'm on to this sentence. And
Okay.
constantly ending on a down note.
Okay.
So, Josh, what did you see going on around you? Did you have a scene, a setting? Were you a character, or were you just trying to get through the script?
Uh, Mostly, I'm gonna be completely honest. I was trying to go through the script,
Okay.
but I did have a scene
Okay.
in mind. I like to think I was given like a PowerPoint presentation in high school, I guess.
Hmm. Okay.
Like I'm not looking at any specific person or anything. I'm just like it's like a big audience and I'm looking straight ahead like at the ceiling or far the back wall and I
Over
just,
here, you'll notice.
yeah.
So
I'm
here's the
not
thing,
looking
Josh.
at anybody. I'm just like pacing back and forth and I'm going
Okay.
through the slides. That's what I was trying to go for.
Yeah. A lot of that's really disconnected, and that came through in your delivery. You were trying
Yeah.
to get through the script, and the scene that you set is really disconnected from people. Instead of a large group, a large faceless group, uh, it's a small personal group.
Okay.
Right? You can see it's just maybe like 1 or 2 families at most. Okay? And
Okay.
you're showing them this because this is something that's really important to you. You love history, and um seeing the kids all dressed up for Halloween, and now they get to hear where this actually all came from.
Oh,
That should be really exciting, right? That should be just a
okay.
really, really cool experience. Hey, did you know Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin? Right? Yeah, maybe you
Okay.
didn't know that. I don't know. Again, let's bring the faceless masses down to a really small and intimate close group that's listening to your presentation very closely. They're very interested in what you have to say.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts have festivals for 2 major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st. The beginning of the Celtic New Year, the Festival of the Dead, was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual in the 9th century. A feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Okay, opening it up. What did you all think? Come on, don't leave Josh hanging here.
There was definitely some more variation on the pattern, as James had said, which was good. I mean, quickly took direction and ran with it. The delivery was I like the delivery, but it's not. I don't know if I would say that it has enough oomph. It was very soft spoken, which I mean that could be a good play on this, right? Leaning in close and telling this, origin of All Hallows Eve. If you're gonna go that route, maybe lean into that a little bit more. But it was very soft spoken, so I don't know if maybe a bigger smile when you're delivering, or if you lean into that this is some secret information you don't know about. Let me tell
So
you
something
more.
like this.
I'm Batman.
Not
Yeah,
like
yeah. If you want to
Batman.
bring it in there. But
So it's
Um,
kind of like a zone 1 kind of read, or
um,
would you think so, or something like that?
here's here's what I was gonna say. Was there anything in this script that you particularly found was interesting that you didn't know before, or that was kind of newer information to you?
The very beginning, basically.
Okay. Um, I want to hear that from you. If that particularly was really interesting to you, then I mean, I want to hear your interest in it.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna try and do a lead in.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Hey, did you know Halloween? Get it together. Hey, did you know Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts have festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the new Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Okay. What did you all think of that delivery?
Starting to sound more natural,
All
but
right.
I don't know. The first paragraph was first paragraph was pretty good. I think the second paragraph you really started to hit your stride a little bit more, and it sounded like you weren't just reading; it was now you were talking about things that you know about. Um,
Hmm.
so, like, if you, I imagine this read is more like imagine you're telling somebody not about this topic, you're telling somebody about because you just finished Lies of P. Tell them all about this game because you know it front to back because it's a lot, right? So
Uh,
tell it with that amount of knowledge that it's you're not
okay.
just hey, did you know Halloween is a festival? Hey, did you know Halloween is a festival? Try and bring a little bit of that confidence that you do know what this is, even if you don't. Pretend like you do. You're the
Even if you
subject
don't
matter
know, too
expert
bad. I'm
here.
going to tell you anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know that
Too
you're
bad.
reading
You're
a
going on this
script.
journey with me, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You're going to sit down and listen. Okay.
So I
So,
would just say, up the confidence a little bit more.
Yeah.
Come at it from a place of you're telling somebody about something that you've told this story thousands of times. So it just flows off the tongue. Now that might be harder
Okay.
because, the script
Yeah.
has some weird numerical structure to it that's not natural.
Hmm.
So if you say this to your computer, maybe add, the first and the second and the 31st, put those extra letters in there. It might help to make it flow a little better. Um,
Oh no, I'm doing all right with just saying like November 1st and all that
okay.
stuff.
Well, I'm just
I
saying that
don't need to. Yeah.
sometimes we see those and for me personally, I don't know. I'm just talking about me. I see those and I'm like, I'm going to trip all over that. So I save
That's
it to
gonna
my
bug me.
computer
yeah.
and I edit the text so that it reads the way I'm gonna say it.
All right.
That helps me. Um,
Josh, this time around, what were you feeling internally? What was your like? What was going on around you? What were you feeling?
Well, throughout the whole thing, I was very relaxed,
Okay.
mostly.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, I did what you suggested. I just pretended I was like talking to like, say, some friends or family,
Hmm.
and we're like in the living room or something, and I just come on and say, "Hey, did you know Halloween was,
Randomly spring this factoid on them.
yeah, we're talking about TV
It's like
shows," and I
it's
go
like
like,
it's really
"Hey, did you
quiet or
know?"
something. Like nobody's saying anything. Hey,
Yeah,
Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin. I don't know if
yeah,
you
it's
knew
good,
that.
right?
Yeah, Something I came across earlier.
Okay.
That's actually something that I was going to bring up, which was that I think you can try this or not. It's totally up to you. But my thought was in your situation, in your lead-in, almost have the idea that someone is asking you to tell you about this. They're interested. They know you've been looking into some things and they're curious about it. So you can this is your chance to share. You've been given free reign to do it and you're excited to get across this information.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You radically changed your setting this time around, and while that helped you with your comfort level, and how calm and collected and well paced you were, um, yeah, you need to maybe instead of just being in the living room, yeah, it's a small group, and just well, you know what, voice of a tiger already said vote. I don't even know what I don't want to give away your name even though I know it, but still. Um, yeah, it was said.
You can give away my name. That's fine. I don't mind.
Well, I don't know. I usually try to respect people's, screen names here. If that's what they want to put on there, then that's what you get. But
Much appreciated. Anyone can refer to me as Zach if you want. I don't mind.
okay.
All right.
So yeah, just what Zach said. Take a deep breath. Give yourself that lead in again.
All
Let's
right.
hear it from the top one more time.
Hey, did you know Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st? Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the new Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
All right. What did you all think of that one?
All right, I like that delivery much better. The only point that I really just took me out of it was in between um, All the Saints and All Hallows. You put in um, a longer pause than seems like it would need there, if that makes sense.
No, I noticed it. Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. Well, if you notice it, it is okay to retake it,
Yeah.
and that is perfectly fine. So now I want you to try something just a little bit different here. Um, let's find a few things that you can give some theatrical something or other to. So, for instance, All Hallows Eve, right? That sounds a little bit fancy and showy, right? Like, it's just a little fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, go ahead and give that a little flair, like All Hallows Eve.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Um, so another one is a god of the dead, because again, that's kind of evocative, right? Like people take notice of that. That's why usually um, mythological beings like Hades and Anubis and whatnot are usually pretty prominent in their in their respective mythologies. Is that's just a little on the evocative side. So go ahead and play that up a little bit. And a god of the dead, right? Like, give it something fun. Let's just
Okay.
see what that does. Like, I don't want you to go super, super crazy with a bunch of other stuff. Just give that a try.
Is doing a beast voice out of the question?
I would definitely say that's not what we want to hear out of here for this one.
Okay. Okay. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
And that was your strongest read so far.
Yay!
That was most definitely your strongest read so far. It was relaxed. You had a little bit of fun with it. I think you could have turned the fun up just a little bit more, but I don't think you need to retake it because it was really easy to follow along with, and your expression and your character was really really well set. So I feel that that was I mean, trying to direct you into something else, I think is just going to get too overwhelming. Um, because you really hit all the subtlety that we were going for with this one, at least in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, let people say what they like about it.
One big
Yay!
love that. One big thing for me, and what I mean, a lot of people have told me and others is if you're improving with every single take that you take, that's progress is progress, right? And you are making progress. And take was different, and you honed in on that direction. And again, being directable and making progress, not getting stuck down in the same patterns, that's a huge part of it. So
Mhm.
that's excellent.
All right.
Well said. Okay, well, if nobody has anything else, then we're going to go
Everyone
ahead
was too
and.
stunned to speak.
Yeah, look at that, Josh. You stunned them. Nobody has anything they can say. Well, anyway, Zach, you're up next.
All right. And take a breath. I'm also going to take out headphones, which I forgot to do last time. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
All right, opening it up. What did you all think?
My only note was it was a little fast, but you sounded really engaged. You kept me interested and stuff. So yeah, other than that, I thought that was a really awesome first read.
Thank you. Okay. I'll slow it down and do another read.
Nobody else says anything. Um, I'm going to give you one other note. Much like what I
Please.
said with Josh, find a few points in here that you can have some fun with and play them up a little bit.
Okay. Will do. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st. And in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Okay, opening it up. Thoughts?
Maybe maybe I maybe it's just in my own brain, but you did vary that up and you found I think you were looking for those places to have fun, right? Like Michael had mentioned. But I feel like
Yeah.
some of those moments that you were, that you chose, I feel like maybe that it was almost like you had a template for the having fun part. Does that make sense? Like it was delivered in kind of the same way. And not that that's necessarily bad, but it was kind
Oh.
of like you made note of it and that's what you decided to do, and it didn't always feel natural or maybe applicable with some of the verbiage that was being read, but not necessarily a bad thing, just something that I kind of picked up on.
Interesting. Thank you.
Well, you're not the only one who heard that. I heard that too. Anybody else? Okay. All right. One more, Zach, except this time. Let's see. Um, I want you to start off really showy. Let's just see what this does to your read. I want you to start off very showy. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Right? Like, just have a little bit of fun with that. Make it kind of,
Sure.
uh, a little bit, theatrical, if you will. Then you can pull back on that. But I think what that's going to do is starting off right is going to help you hit the other areas that you decide to have some fun with differently. I just want you to turn that up a little bit more. Just at the very beginning, let's see what it does to your read whenever you're ready.
Yeah, sure. Let's give it a shot. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
I loved it. That was my personal favorite read, but I'm going to open it up. What did you all think of that one?
Yeah, I agree. Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, that was
Completely
terrific.
engaged.
The sentence "the Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated." That one, I liked the inflections you put there, the emphasis you put there, and then even the last sentence of the last paragraph. You pause before, you know, souls. Like it was a good punctuation mark to everything that you read, and you started out great right from the get go.
Yeah, I agree. After
Wow.
that last sentence, it made me want to learn even more. It's like, "Ooh, tell me," you know?
Yeah, it's funny what happens when you start off right, when you just get the beginning right, everything else falls into line. And that's what happened here. You gave yourself the room to have a little bit more fun, a little bit more theatrics with that opening sentence because let's face it, it's kind of theatrical, right? Because you're starting talking about Halloween, and you think of all of the spooky stuff that goes on with Halloween and the fun that it's supposed to be for most people nowadays. And giving that little extra, like the little extra theatrics, man, that really helped the remainder of your read. It was so engaging after that. Yeah, I loved it.
Oh, awesome. Well, appreciate the direction there.
That's
I had a lot of fun reading it.
good on you for applying the directions well. So we're gonna go ahead and move it right along then, because I'm happy with that. And if anybody disagrees with me, you're welcome to your incorrect opinion. But I mean, whatever. We're gonna go ahead and move on to James. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced back to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day in honor of the souls of the dead.
Okay, opening it up. What did y'all think?
I don't know how else to say this, but I feel like you telling the history about Halloween kind of reads more like an instruction manual. Just it feels like it needs a little bit of extra flavor. I don't need like a step-by-step tutorial by saying it's like step 1, blah 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 blah, you know?
Yeah, so
Like, switch it up.
I'm gonna agree with that. It was a technically good read. No hitches, no issues, no nothing like that. It was just safe. There was
Yep.
very
Yeah.
little decision
That's what I
making
was
that
gonna
was made
say.
through there. Yeah.
I was like,
Safe.
that was a safe read.
I
We're
was
gonna need
trying to go for fun and exciting, and I might have fallen into work mode. I don't know.
You know what? You know what? Let's try what we did with Zach earlier. Just make that first sentence really showy. Go a little over the top with it. Just seriously, have some fun with it, and then let's see how that leads you into the remainder of your read.
All right. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Saints. November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day in honor of the souls of the dead.
All right, opening it up. Thoughts?
I think it's sounding much better, you know? Can definitely see you're having a lot more fun with it.
That last sentence was, that was lovely.
Thanks.
I'm nitpicky on you, James. You slipped out of it a couple times.
Okay.
There were just a couple times that you slipped out of it, but I really did like the choice. Also, don't forget all the saints, not just the saints.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's grammatically a
Yeah,
bit weird.
it's okay. Everybody's forgetting all the saints. I think there's a lot of saints that are really offended right now. They're feeling not included, guys. Let's do better. Let's be better.
Oh my god.
In honor of all saints, not you guys.
Yeah.
These
What?
saints, not you.
Like,
Wait, who do the Saints play
oh,
for? again?
Louisiana's sad.
All right. Any other thoughts?
So
Okay. Oh, sorry.
I agree that you did kind of slip back into it, and maybe just keep up a little bit of the playfulness from the beginning. Like as everyone has said, your technical reading is great. Just allow yourself to play around.
All right.
Yeah. Overall, the final direction. Have fun. Just have fun. Go for it. Let's hear it. Seriously. Seriously. Let's hear you just have fun with this read. Let's see what it does to you.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony on Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st. In the 11th century, November 1st was specified as All Saints' Day in honor of the souls of the dead.
All right, opening it up. How was that one?
All right, so now that we're in the Crypt Keeper's dungeon here, give
Michael
us a
told me to have
cackle.
fun.
Give us a cackle, James.
I can't go that high.
Yeah.
I'm sick right now too, so it's a little tough.
I think the voice print was fun. It did make you flub up a little bit more,
Yeah.
like especially towards the end. But
Okay.
that was a fun read. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I like the fact that you went all in with it and you stuck to the bit from beginning to end. Let's now just limit it a little bit more. No, that's fine. That's fine. No, now that you've applied it everywhere, and also good on you for being here when you're sick. You really should be taking care of yourself first and foremost. But
I've got
let's-
tea and things over here.
tea and things. Well, let's go ahead and again, so play up and have a lot of fun with that first sentence. Then you can be a little bit more, hey, this is more interesting. I really want to engage with you on this particular thing. But once you've given yourself that in, once you've put your foot in the door with having a little bit of fun with it, like right at the very beginning, you can then sprinkle that in a little bit here or there. Like add a little bit of extra flavor in certain parts. But more so than that, what scene are you seeing through this? Like what's your setting? What's going on here in your mind?
Well, and I think that might have been the fault of the first read. I was thinking about this more of like I guess we had talked about at the beginning, more of like a documentary on Halloween.
Okay.
So I fell into more of that documentary, more informational style.
Okay. Well, so here's the thing. We want to be informational, but the information is fun, right? Like this is supposed to be interesting and engaging and fun. And again, it's for young adults to, like late teens, early 20s kind of thing, right? So you're going to be speaking with kids who look at that. I'm calling them kids now. Oh, yeah, I'm old. But you're going to be speaking to people who are going to be interested in like the fact that they've never actually thought about where Halloween came from. They don't know who these figures and what all of this stuff is. So, like engage yourself with that. Like that should be where you have the most fun. So if this is going to be a presentation to a group, again, small group, just a few people, and
More
allow
like
yourself.
campfire story, maybe?
You know what? Yeah. Let's hear that. What's your campfire story?
You mind if I break in with one more thing?
Go for it.
And I'm only bringing this up because you do so well. So I'm being super nitpicky as well. I loved the goofy read. Interestingly enough, I think it had the same problem as the instructional read, which is that it was goofy and the voice was great, but it was the same type of goofy throughout the entire read. So I think Michael hit the nail on the head with sprinkle in the bits here and there so we get good variation. But yeah, that's it. Still really
All right. Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day in honor of the souls of the dead.
Yeah, that was it. At least in my opinion. I'm gonna open it up. What do
I
y'all think?
agree.
Snaps all around. That was definitely your best take.
Yeah.
that was awesome. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Good, because I
sprinkling-
think I'm going to tap out after this. Ugh.
Good. Go take care of yourself. Drink all of that, drink the warm liquids
Yeah.
and rest and all that good stuff. But yeah, no, I think overall you added in just that level of fun that we were looking for. Again, like I said, 100 times before, your reads are solid. They're technically good. We just got to sprinkle in more of that fun, man.
Yeah, that's my curse.
We'll work on that. No problem. But yeah, I'm good to move on. Let's go ahead and go on to the next.
All right.
Andrew, you are up.
All right, can y'all hear me now?
Absolutely, we can.
All right, cool. Um, Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festivals of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a festival in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
All right, opening it up. What did y'all think?
I feel like it had the same rhythm throughout, so it's kind of like a humdrum kind of thing. So I'd play with it a little more. Also, when you guys flub, seriously, go back to the beginning of the sentence, and then like all the way to the beginning of the sentence, and then
All
go
right.
through it, because you really don't catch your flub up really until you fully read the thought out
All right.
and stuff. And plus, editors will love you when you do that in the booth. If you just go back, boom. And
Yeah,
keep
the
it
other
up.
thing is there's also the psychological element of it, whether we
Yeah.
really think about it or not. I mean, pushing through with a scene regardless of what happens is definitely something that you want to do on stage, right? Like, if it's theater, yes, you push through the scene regardless. Um, film, television, all that stuff, all on screen acting, yes, you push through the scene. But in voiceover, no, No, if you mess up, take the time to go back and get it right. Right? Like you have that leeway. You have that opportunity. So, um, the reason why that's so super important is because, unfortunately, and this is something I'm trying to break you all the habit of, we get very judgmental of ourselves. Shocking, right? Creative people wanting to be perfect. Who would have guessed? So the thing is when you stumble, when you hit something that really throws you off, it sticks with you. And you hear that throughout the rest of the read. So
Hmm.
it is totally okay to just call it whenever you do the mess up. Throw that take away, go back to the beginning of the sentence, start over from there, and keep
All
going.
right.
Yeah,
All
You
right.
are totally
me
within
personally, a
you can
flub.
totally do it.
Yeah, me personally, a flub will just like erase what my acting choices were.
Hmm.
Like, so that's why, that's another good reason to go back to the beginning of the sentence. Cause like I'm like if I start in the middle of where I was, I'm like, wait, these aren't the right acting choices that I was gonna make. Like, let me go back and refresh my memory of what I was gonna do. So there's that aspect of it too. And then you said festival instead of a feast.
Mm,
That was it. That's all I had.
Yeah, I think that was a consequence of the mess up and pushing right through it.
Yeah.
So,
hmm.
um, next time that happens, take a deep breath, back up. Don't let the mess up throw you off. Control it.
All right.
And yeah, start off with having a little bit of fun with it,
All right.
because I think that's really been helping a lot of people's reads. Let's see what it does for yours. Maybe we'll have to do something different, but for now, just start off with some theatrics. Start off with some fun.
All right.
Whenever you're ready.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the custom connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid elements of the customs elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a
Started
Druid
from the top.
ceremony. Hmm?
Started from the top, all the way over.
Oh, all the way over?
All the way over. Just started
All
from the
right.
top.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls Day to honor the souls of the dead.
First off, good recovery. Secondly, opening it up. What'd y'all think?
So, can I just say, first of all, I love your voice. And I think a script like this, it fits you very well. Like, there's this warmth and this base to it. And I feel like if, the more you read the script and the more you get comfortable with it, you're going to be able to put inflections and pauses and draw out certain words that are just, it's going to blow people away. So, you have everything in your toolbox that you to deliver, wonderfully on scripts like this. And like Michael said, terrific job on the recovery. Sometimes it's hard because you want to push through, but it is always better to reset. And it showed because some of the lines that you re-delivered after going to the top, you sounded more confident. You even changed how you said it a little bit in some of those takes. And I think it improved it a lot. So, good on you for taking that direction and running with it. And again, love your voice. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Like to add on to that because of what Caitlin said. Lean into that accent because there was one time, like in the first read you did, you said beginning instead of beginning, and because it was your southern accent, I was like, oh, I love that. That was
All right.
beautiful. So I want you to really lean into your accent and really say it how you would like really say it. Like definitely don't fight your accent.
I
Here,
mean,
here,
we,
Brett.
I mean,
Huh?
we going all the way.
Sure, but here's the thing: what did you see going on around you? What was your scene? What was your setting? Or were you just trying to get through the script?
I mean, that time it was more of like a museum setting, like those things that'll read it aloud to you alongside the videos.
Okay, I'm sorry, but like, what is? I hear so many people choosing like these really disconnected and like robotic and emotionless scenes. Andrew, you've got the tools to really engage somebody in this. No, no, you're not just the robot voice, or the robot sounding voice reading to the people who are visiting the museum.
All right.
You're there, right? Like this is your passion. This is what you do. Like you love getting into history. What's something in your own life separate from voiceover, or maybe it is voiceover, but what's something in your own life that you really, really love talking to people about? Like something that you really love engaging with people about?
I mean, I love rock climbing.
Hey, okay, that's awesome. So like if you pass by a couple people that are talking about it, your ear immediately perks up, right? You're like, "Oh,
Hmm.
oh yeah, now let me get into this." Feel those emotions, feel that connection, feel that sort of like, "Okay, now we got something cool going on here." That's the kind of feeling that I want to hear from you in this script.
All right.
So you can give yourself that scene as long as it helps you like really tap into those emotions, but I want to hear you really feel like super engaged with that.
All right.
Take your time whenever you're ready.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, Sun Festival. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Shalvain, whose festivals was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual, and in the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st. And in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
All right, what did you all think of that one? We got some clapping going on from Roddy. Come on, anybody, any thoughts, any impressions, anything?
Something was stumbling you a little more this time. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was you were nervous to go all in with the accent because I heard your accent right away. Like you went like all Hollers Eve, and I was like, ooh, okay, that's how you say that. Okay, I like it. um, but then yeah, the Kelton festivals area kind of like started like flubbing you up over there. So I don't
Yeah.
know if
Hmm.
you kind of got nervous and stuff, but and it kind of sounded like you had more nervous energy going for you than anything.
I'm
Hmm.
sorry,
And
more nervous what?
what? That's a legitimate thing,
Excuse
Michael.
me.
I didn't
This
say
is my
energy in
practice. Thank you
general.
very much.
What?
I have a
What?
rule.
I got a nervous aura around me. That is
A
that better?
nervous
Yes.
uh, atom, an atomic level of nervousness.
An atomic level of nervousness.
I don't know.
Well,
Nervous energy doesn't count for the energy word.
how about this? You sounded nervous.
Hmm.
Okay.
I'm just giving you a
It
hard time.
it almost seemed like everyone saying that they love your accent had almost the opposite intended effect, where it seemed like you were focusing more on the accent rather than giving a really good read. That's the feeling I got. I very well could be wrong in that. Yeah, I think again, if you look for the scene in your mind and you're sharing things that you're excited about, uh, that'll come across.
Mm-hmm.
Were
All
you
right.
feeling nervous?
Yeah, so I'm not used to using my accent
Okay.
except for in groups of close friends. So like when I'm up teaching,
I see how it is now.
mm-hmm.
We're not close friends. Okay.
Ow.
Okay.
Not what I meant. Not what I meant. I'm using my
I'll
accent with you
see
right
myself
now.
out.
It's just like it feels like I'm going from just talking to professional setting because the subject of it, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. So then approach this however you're going to be most comfortable. But I want to hear you be comfortable with it, and I want to hear you feel engaged with what's going on. Again, the same kind of feeling that as if you came across somebody who, asked you about rock climbing, right? Like
All right.
that should be the engagement that you approach this with. But I want you to feel comfortable in giving your interpretation of what this is. So whatever level of your accent you feel that you can bring out, let's not focus on that too much. It's less about the voice, more about your mindset. That's always how it
All
is.
right.
And for this next one, to give you something hard and fast to definitely do, I don't know if you can monitor yourself or not. We're just going to throw it off. Just get rid of the headphones for the read.
All right.
Whenever you're ready.
Am I good to go?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve and the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Shalvain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a festival in honor of the saints, All Hallows, who in the 9th century, a feast in honor of the all in the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st. And in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Okay. Headphones are back on. Go ahead.
Mhm.
This barrage of thoughts. What are you all thinking?
I felt like I heard some more confidence coming through, especially in the beginning. When was it? I think honestly in the very last paragraph in the 9th century, that one tripped you up a little bit more, and I felt like the confidence kind of dissipated a little bit there. But of course, when we stumble, that tends to happen. But it's a big practice and mental fortitude to take a deep breath, step back, and try again with the same vigor and matching the uh, performative essence that you put forth during the. But again, at the beginning, the confidence was there. It sounded a little bit more natural, a little bit more comfortable. But towards the end, a couple of stumbles kind of threw that a little bit off. But otherwise, again, improvement with every take.
Mm-hmm.
So, Andrew, how are you feeling about this script?
I'm going to be honest, I don't think I'm ever going to get into narration. I very much like the character scripts better than this.
Am I gonna have to do the shtick? Am
I
I gonna
got.
have to do
Can
the
I do
shtick?
this? Can I do a
Do the
shtick?
shtick.
Okay,
Do
go
the
ahead. Do
shtick.
a shtick, Brent.
All right. So here's my shtick. Hopefully, we're on the same wavelength. When you're rock climbing, like you ever like pump yourself up? You're like, I'm gonna do this. Yeah. Like that's the type of gumption that we want in this. I didn't use energy. I didn't use it. I didn't use it. I used gumption. Anyway, so like I want you to put yourself into a situation like where you've been working hard at climbing rocks. You know, you've done these small ones, you've done these medium-sized ones, but now there's this big one that you're coming up to, really fucking challenging. Pardon my French. I also don't think that's French. And you're about to climb this, but you're a little nervous. So you're like, I'm gonna use this nervousness or whatever to like just fuel myself. And that's what I want you to feel for this Halloween stuff, this Halloween history information. Like you were like gumption ready for like to explain this to some people. Like you've been itching to tell someone about Halloween. Somebody was like, "Huh, I wonder how Halloween started." And you're like, "Oh, boy, do I got a story for you."
All
So,
right.
yeah, I want to hear that read.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, we're on the same level, but that wasn't the shtick. The shtick is, all right. I'm gonna turn up my gain so that everybody can hear me in the back here. Okay, all scripts are character scripts. All right, all of them, every single one of them. There is there is no room in voiceover for just flat, bland informational reads. If somebody wants that, they'll use AI now. Like they'll just pump everything through an AI, and that'll be just as good as anybody else they could hire. All scripts are character scripts. This is why I was asking, who is this person who's speaking? Because the difference between these more these more informational and more uh, or less theatrical scripts and the more theatrical scripts is the level to which or is the where your character basically comes from. In a less theatrical script, your character is another person. It's another human being. It's just another individual. So they will have their own interests and their own things that make them, super excited to talk about stuff or to get into things. They are a different, unique person. Whereas in a theatrical script, you can have, I don't know, like a half demon, half wolf from the netherworld. It doesn't matter. Like you can do whatever the hell you want to with a theatrical script. But the thing is all scripts are character scripts. Every single one of them that you come across. And that's why it's super, super important to find a character in any script that you do. You have to connect with something. If you feel like you're more of a character actor than you are anything else, then it's super important to give yourself a grounded human character who's going to talk about this stuff. Maybe trying to relate it to you and rock climbing doesn't work for you. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. But maybe there's a YouTuber that you watch all the time who's super super into like one specific thing that they love, and like you just enjoy listening to them, right? You enjoy listening to them talk about that. You can draw from that as a character for something like this. Maybe it's that same kind of mindset but for Halloween, right? So maybe they have like a really expressive way of showing that, but they're a character. They're a human character, but they're a character. There is no script that isn't a character script. So that's my shtick, and I'm sticking to it. So, I mean, if you don't feel comfortable, we can go ahead and move on. That's perfectly fine. But if you want to give this another go, give yourself a human character, a person who is interested in this. See their interest, feel what they feel about history and about bringing this stuff to life. Like, you don't have to be excited about it yourself, but your character is. They're so into this history. It's such a part of them that they really, really want to just share it with whoever will listen to them. Like, this is really interesting for them. So I want to hear that.
All right.
Go ahead and give it one more go, and then we'll go ahead and move it along.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festival for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Shalvain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian rituals. In the ninth century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Okay. Um, did I make you nervous with that shtick at all?
No,
Are you
no. I mean, I felt less nervous for that one, if that makes sense.
okay? Okay. Because it started off really, really fast, and then you slowed down to a more comfortable pace. So you kind of ended up where I wanted to hear you, but
All
you
right.
you started off a little too quick. Um, it seemed like there were a few things that threw you off or that flubbed you up a little bit, but all in all, at least when you were like in like the middle of it, when you really hit your stride, it sounded much more natural than your previous reads.
All right.
Any other thoughts? Any other input before we move on? Okay, moving it right along. Cassidy, you're up.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Cassidy, are you were you nervous at all going into that?
Well, I didn't have a plan in mind.
Okay. But were you feeling pretty calm when you were reading it, or did you feel nervous at all?
Hmm.
Or was that just not even in your head?
Well, I wasn't really thinking about it.
Okay, okay. Because here's the thing, that was a really solid first read. Like it was. I think you could add in again, like what we've been doing before. I think I'd love to hear you have a little bit more fun with it, just right at that very first sentence, and see if that can lead you to changing things up a little bit later on. Just to see what it does. But that first read was really solid. Like I know you've been relatively nervous a couple of times when you've read with us, but I didn't hear any of that whatsoever.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. No, this time you sounded really. Again, it was really solid first read. I mean, if you hear some of Justin down here said you sounded pretty engaged. Um, I think RV. I think he was mentioning for you. You're locked in. Just try reading with a smile. Yeah, the where you began, where you are right now. Yeah, that's a really solid beginning.
All right.
So, um, let's see. I'd love to hear if you just give All Hallows Eve or night or just some little part of that first sentence, just a little bit of extra theatrics. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve. Just a little bit of some showiness right off the bat. I think it really ease. I don't know. It wouldn't. Okay, what's the right word? What am I looking to say? Um, it would start the engagement off immediately because again, you start off really solid, but I think just with having a little bit of fun on that first sentence, like you really hook people in right from the get go. Anybody else?
Just one note. Uh, for the last sentence, it sounded like you interrupted yourself. Uh, I'd like you to try to end the read with some kind of finality, like that. This is the end of what you wanted to explain, because the first read sound like you were about to start another sentence, like like you interrupted yourself mid sentence.
Mm. All right.
All right. Well, whenever you're ready, from the top.
Okay. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. I feel like my enunciation was. No.
No, you're good. You're good. You started off strong. You started off strong. You should have just you could have kept going and you would have still had a really good read.
Okay.
So, um
I'll just.
yeah, so do you have some room that you can move around a little bit just with your hands and whatnot?
Well, I just mean like. Uh, um. Well.
You're all right. Again, you started off really strong. You've got a good solid base going here. Um all I want you to do is just give a little bit of like sparkle fingers to All Hallows Eve.
Okay.
Just from the top, just give that a little bit of sparkle fingers and just go with it. Just go with it. If there's anything that you need to change, we'll let you know. Okay.
Okay. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
All right. Did you just give a little sparkle fingers to All Hallows Eve?
I tried to.
Okay. I did hear it. It was subtle. It was subtle, but I did hear it. The thing is again, um, I know you felt really uncomfortable with your previous read, but you've got a really solid read going here. I don't really think that there's a whole heck of a lot that you should change, particularly not about your enunciation or anything like that. That is not a problem that I'm hearing whatsoever. Again, the only thing that I will want to hear is just a little bit of a smile and just like Brennan put in the chat over there, flourish on All Hallows Eve. But again, what you gave us, I liked. I liked what I was hearing. I'm gonna open it up. What did you all think of that last read?
I'll just say that because again, I kind of broke this into three different paragraphs, right? But at the last sentence of each paragraph, I preferred the way you ended it, like the pacing of it, the inflection, just the emphasis on certain words. It really helped connect all of those paragraphs together for me, and so it was engaging, and it kept me engaged in my listening, and so again, yours have been some of my favorite ways of ending each paragraph. Like it's kind of how I have voiced it in my head. And so I appreciated that and I thought it flowed really well. And this ending on the very last paragraph, All Souls Day to honor the souls of the dead, that was punctuated much better than last time. But it was a good read. Again, solid read.
Yeah, I think you definitely stuck the landing this time, with the way you did to honor the souls of the dead. I definitely didn't hear like you were interrupting yourself anymore.
Yeah, that read was really smooth. Again, um, my only little nitpick would be just turn up the little flourish at the very beginning. But again, I don't even think I'd really want you to go back and do it again because it's really really solid, and I don't want you to feel super nervous about it because again, it's a really really good starting point for the whole thing. It's just a solid read in general. So you should be proud of yourself. You did a really really good job.
Am. And well, I feel like this script is a bit more suited to say more suited for me than say selections from Bloodborne.
Yeah, no, I mean, and people are going to have their comfort level with different scripts, and that's perfectly fine. The reason why I like to bring just various different scripts, and the reason why I think it's super important to challenge ourselves with those scripts every once in a while is that um, when you're in that space where you're kind of nervous about a script, you really have to rely heavily on your own creativity and on your own decision making at that point. Um, and it does something to your read. I'm of the opinion that if you want to get better at one style of voiceover, you should learn the other one as well. If you want to be a good character actor, you should learn commercial work. And if you want to be a great commercial actor, you should learn character work. They both interweave with each other in amazing ways. And your comfort with this script came through quite a bit. And again, the read that you gave us was great. I'm happy with it. I think we can go ahead and move it along if you feel comfortable.
We can move along.
All right. So, Brett, are you all right with Justin going next? Cool. All right, Justin, you are up.
Okay, I'm gonna try this. I saw Brandon's request. Gonna go for it. Observe. Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead. And a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the new Celtic New Year. The festival of the dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
All right. All right, Justin. You know what? If you want to go for that read, let's direct you into that read, shall we? Let's make it the best possible flat read we can just the best one we can get out of you. That was way too expressive.
I agree.
If you were going for
Yep. Yep.
if you were going for a flat, like deadpan read, you were way too expressive, my friend.
Okay.
You need to bring that. You just flatten it out. Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve.
Yeah, they're
October 31st. You need
Channel
to give
channel your inner channel your inner Burger King foot lettuce.
that's what I was thinking.
But the problem is Burger King foot lettuce guy is still too expressive.
I
Number
don't know who foot
15,
lettuce.
Burger King foot lettuce. The last thing you want in your Burger King burger, right? Like it's too expressive. There are too many peaks and valleys. No, we need to flatten this out. You need to choose one tone the entire way through. Starts mid, ends on a down note. Starts mid, ends on a down note. And you need to use that with every single bit of punctuation.
Okay.
Commas, periods, everything. It needs to be flat and then end on a down note. Flat and then end on a down note.
Okay.
So if you're going to do this,
I was
Commit.
heavily drawing on Ben Stein and the Clear Eyes commercial.
Yeah. Too expressive. You're
Okay.
still being too expressive. You gotta iron everything out, right? This needs to look like the most boring, boring, flat read possible.
Okay. All right. Okay. Whew. All right. Halloween is the festival. Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a
You're
Druid
still too
ceremony.
expressive. You're still too expressive, my friend. Elements
Hmm.
of the customs connected with Halloween. You see, you're still expressing it too much. This is what I mean. Like, if you're going to go for it, it needs to be flat. In fact, pay attention to the muscles in your face and just actively relax all of them. Like when you're doing the read, it should just be as flat as possible. Like, arms down to the sides, slouch down if you could as well. Just
Okay.
Halloween is a
Okay.
festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve. Right? Like, no inflection to the voice whatsoever. Choose a tone all the way through and on a down note.
Okay. Got it. Okay. All right. Oh. Okay. Halloween is the festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and the god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in the honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
All right, opening it up. Brennan, what did you think of that? Or anybody? What did
If
you think?
Brendan's not going to
Flat
say
enough?
anything, I will say that my my mind wandered partway through your read, which I think is really a good sign.
Oh,
My head tilted back. I was like, "Oh my god. Oh my god, this read is killing me." But at the same time, it's a masterpiece. I am so proud.
Yeah.
So proud.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
you
it's like an
nailed it.
actor doing really bad acting, and you're like, "Wow, that's just terrible."
Yeah.
But that
No, it
was the
was
purpose
perfect.
of it. It was so good.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was perfect.
exactly. It's at once beautiful and horrible.
Yeah. Now, if we're going to get really, really nitpicky, a feast in honor of all the saints, you did give that one a little bit of a lift. A feast in honor of all the saints. Now we gotta flatten that out too. Now, if you're going, but like the hallmark of that read that was being asked for is you can't follow it. Like, your listeners get lost in the middle of you saying stuff. Like, that is
And
what
you
you
know what?
want to go for.
That was where I was brought back into life and realized that there was still a read going on I needed to pay attention to.
Okay, fine. We won't do it again. All right. Well, go ahead and give us another read. This
should I?
time for real.
Should I?
The peanut gallery is not wanting to hear the Ben Stein read again.
Okay.
Yeah, no. This time, go ahead and give us a performance with this one.
Oh, okay. I hope I don't crap my face. Okay. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called The Celts had festival for two major gods, a sun god and the god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Okay, opening it up. What did y'all think of that one?
I think it started out great and you kept the same kind of energy throughout it. Definitely prefer it to the original reads, but I know what you were going for there. Ha ha ha. But it did good have it did good have. It did have oh my gosh, I said that it did have good performative essence. It was engaging. And again, always appreciate whenever you stumble going back, pausing, taking a deep breath. Uh, it's a hard thing to do, it's a hard thing to admit to that and to, have to start over, but that was great.
Cool, thank you.
Anybody else? Nothing? Okay. So, Justin, what was your scene? What were you seeing? What was going on? Where does your performance take place?
Honestly, it took place in a museum, and I was thinking the audience were people that just had a very surface level of Halloween. Like it's just like they just know Halloween is a place to get candy, and they know nothing else about it. But they're open to hear what is the origin story of Halloween. So I wanted to meet their engagement with my delivery.
Okay. Okay. Um, Again, I'm really hammering this point just because I think it's going to add some flavor to the reads. Give that beginning, Halloween, or um, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Give some kind of section in there, a flourish, some kind of extra theatrics, just there, and well, start there. And if it feels natural to add something else along the way, go for it. If not, then don't worry about it. But let's see what starting off with just a little bit of like an icebreaker will do. Because maybe this is like the beginning of the tour, right? So everybody has, everybody's all dressed up. They've got all their, the witches and zombies and mummies and all that stuff. They're all dressed up looking like that. And you're just beginning your tour. So Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st, right? So you're kind of setting the stage and you're having a little bit of fun with them and you're expecting them to sort of like chuckle or groan a little bit or just kind of smile, right? You know, you're start with levity and let's see where it goes from there.
Okay. Welcome all. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st. And in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Boom. Done. You owned it. Seriously, like that was fantastic. That was a really, really solid read. I'm going to open it up. What did you all think of it?
I don't have a webcam, so you can't see me clapping, but that was a huge improvement. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was much, much better. You did such a great job.
The engagement of the narration was right there. I was hooked from the start to the end. I was listening to every word you were saying, which is the intended effect that you want with your client and with your audience. Great job on that one.
Right? Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to highlight one.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think there was one moment in the middle where it started to become like the rhythm was the same, and as soon as I noticed it, you switched it up, and I was drawn back in.
Cool.
Yeah. In general, like again, adding a little bit of flourish at the beginning of that read really, really helped sell it. Like it really did, and it it gave you something to spring from, and it gave you that engagement that I think that I was looking for sure. But I mean, it certainly landed for a lot of other people. Of course, you'd have to check to see if it's right with the client, but I don't think a client would really complain about that because they'd be like, "Oh, okay, oh, I like that." Like it would be ear catching, and I think in an audition setting that would really set you apart from a lot of other people. So good on you.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and move it right along. I don't have any notes to change that up with. I don't want to hear anything different. Brett, you are now up.
All right. All dark in here. Where's the tour guide at? I want to know about Halloween. I'm so glad you asked. Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st. And in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls Day to honor the souls of the dead.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to open it up. What did you all think?
Okay,
First of all, oh,
okay.
go ahead.
Please go ahead, Caitlin. Please go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. First of all, great lead in. You set the scene, set the tone. Even if no one else heard that, I think it did wonders for your execution. The choice was great. It matched the theme of the script really well. You kept it consistent throughout. Feel like there was something else that I had noticed, but I can't think of it right now. Just it great choices. I really liked it. Maybe at certain points it slowed down a little bit too much for me, but again, I think that went with the whole character that you were portraying. So nice one.
Speaking of the character that you were portraying, Brett, can you give us a run through of what was going on in your head as you led with this execution of the read?
Like what my setting was, or what?
What was going on in your head? Like, how did you plan this? What was the character you were portraying? I'd love for you to describe it to us.
So originally I thought of the ghost host from the Haunted Mansion for like a good like start. Just because I love how sinister he is. But then I was like, well, that doesn't really, there's no setting within like a haunted mansion that would like make this feel right. So like I was like, oh, this could be like maybe a little haunted theme in a museum, and the the tour guide is just going fucking extra. Um and really trying to engage with these kids that just think that Halloween's about candy.
All right, that is cool. That is cool. I do agree with Caitlin. Your read was actually really interesting. That made me smile from start to end. Um, I would love to hear you speed it up a bit, and I do agree that there were some points where your cadence was a little similar, but that's more of a nitpick at this point. Um, I think a couple more reads, and you will be able to give. And if you slow it down a bit more, you have a very solid and very engaging and very animated read. That's my 2 cents on the matter.
Okay.
Okay. So then keep having fun. Just have that fun a little bit quicker
Okay. Cool.
whenever you're ready.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Halloween is a festival of Scottish Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a druid ceremony in pre Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st. And in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls' Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Thoughts?
For me, I enjoyed the flourish at the end, how you finished honor the souls of the dead. A great job on that one. The cadence was just, I mean, the speed of the read for me was way better in this one. And because you change your cadence a lot compared to your first read, I was more engaged with this one, and I still kept that smile from when you started till you finished. Great job.
You.
Anybody else?
Did you scramble your video as part of your performance? Because if so, then that made it even more scary.
No, but I was trying to turn my lights down lower, like before I started, but
It's back to normal now, but yeah, just
Yeah.
before it was just all scrambled up.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if we were going to stick with a fun read, I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Ooh.
Yeah, Okay, cool.
I spooked
Okay,
everyone.
so a little thing I did actually that I did not say was when you started your second read, Brett. I have some music playing in the background. I literally switch it up to some generic, corny, cartoony cartoon Halloween music, and it fit pretty well. That's
Oh
why for
wow.
me, I really enjoyed your read. Yeah, that's why I was smiling. That's why I said I was smiling. And your read was good. Fit the music. It was just some generic cartoon Halloween thing too. So great job. I really have no complaints. Pack it and ship it. We're good.
Sweet. Cut. Print. Ooh.
All right. Well, I mean, if nobody has anything else that they want to hear, I'm cool with having one of the more fun character reads in here. Why not? All right. Well, last for the yes. Count the count.
Uh.
You want me to do it as count?
Honestly, that was another thought I had. I thought of doing a vampire. So I don't know.
So you want me to do it as count?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fine. Why not? Let's have a fun read for it, right?
Yeah, do it, do it, do it.
All right, then let's see here. Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st. That is the first day, one day into November. The beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st. And in the 11th century, 2 centuries after the first one, November 2nd was specified as All Souls Day to honor the souls of the dead.
Oh my god, that was perfect.
That was good. I loved it.
Ship it. Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with that. Okay, fine.
We're
I
eating good
didn't
tonight,
know
boys.
I needed that in my life.
We are eating good tonight.
That's right.
Oh man.
Hey, it said engaged and fun, and that was both. Okay, so
Okay, hey, you know what? If that worked, that worked, right?
it worked. It worked. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife is just losing it back there.
10, 10 out of 10. No, no.
Oh man. Okay. Well, so is that how we want to end off the night
Hello?
tonight? Let's just-
My only thing is the Count being a vampire. You said pre-Christian with no hiccup. That's weird. I was
Yeah, but
expecting
this is a felt count.
No, he's still a vampire.
Yeah, it was- Come on, Brennan posted a gif of it. The man is it's felt. Anyway.
Fine. I want you to hiss.
Oh, that's true. He's not confirmed to be a vampire.
Oh.
He's just the Count.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Diving into Sesame Street lore. I love it.
Was not expecting that for voiceover practice. Truly, I was not.
Wow.
Again, I have no idea where most of these go. Okay, well, I mean, do professional different here. Well, does anybody want to hear anything different? I think we should go ahead and maybe call it if that's the case.
Epic voice guy.
Epic voice guy?
Like movie trailer.
Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin.
He's
Something
not
like
Oh,
here
like a
tonight.
promo?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, like a
yeah, like a
promo shot.
promo.
Like a Don LaFontaine adjacent, you know?
Okay, so fun fact about that, they actually do it with the gain up fairly high. They're pretty close to the microphone, and they're not actually speaking very loud. Halloween is a festival of Scottish-Irish origin, held on All Hallows Eve, the night of October 31st. Elements of the customs connected with Halloween can be traced to a Druid ceremony in pre-Christian times. The Celts had festivals for two major gods, a sun god and a god of the dead, called Samhain, whose festival was held on November 1st, the beginning of the Celtic New Year. The Festival of the Dead was gradually incorporated into Christian ritual. In the 9th century, a feast in honor of all the saints, All Hallows, was fixed on November 1st, and in the 11th century, November 2nd was specified as All Souls Day to honor the souls of the dead.
I
When's the
swear
movie
I've
coming
heard
out?
that narrator somewhere.
Yeah, when's the movie coming out? I'd like to
Like-
watch this.
Yeah, I
You
want to
heard
see
that
that.
narrator right here, baby, right here. All right. Well, before this gets any more off the rails and before we take up any more time, let's go ahead and call it here, shall we? At least the stream, not the meetup, because we still have a few people we need to get to. So, for those of you who are watching us, thank you all so very much. Once again, you've seen their names scrolling down at the bottom. We really, really want to thank those who have decided to support us over on Coffee. We're working with them one-on-one on goal sessions and on all kinds of really cool stuff. And again, we're still kind of developing exactly how we're going to like. Well, you know what? We've got some stuff that we're working on, so we'll talk about that at a different time. Once again, everybody, thank you so much. If you're on Twitch, feel free to join us in here in the Discord. You're more than welcome to hang out and give us your feedback at any time, and we will see you on the next one.
All right,
Take
adios.
it easy,
Happy Halloween.
and that'll be it for the stream, but not the meetup. So hang out.
Okay. Have a good one, guys. Take
Take
care.
it easy. Wait, did Mike leave?